budget workshop number 2. And for all those who watched last Thursday night for the first one, you know the format. Tonight we're going to lead off with Donna Komar, our assessor for the town of Webster. And Donna, I'll hand the baton to you.
Okay. My budget hasn't changed a lot since last year, except for a couple of lines, and there are some significant numbers. Basically, we're trying to reconfigure some of the staff. So, let me see. Most of the lines across there are going to be consistent for the part-time employees and the salaried employees. The overtime is up a little because we are embarking on a commercial property revaluation project this year and headed into deeper waters for more of a revaluation preparation in the following year. So this is all leading up to that. And the employees is up because we are still looking for an appraiser or someone to do our valuation. So we need to supplement the current staff with that number there. And so that's a significant increase over the clerical salary that was there in prior years. I'm not asking for any capital purchases at this time, so that's 0. Membership deeds, copier, office expenses, those types of things are pretty similar. The office supplies looks like a jump, but we need some extra supplies for the commercial revaluation project, and also because I have to admit I left something out last year, so we're squeaking our pennies this year to stay under our $775. Training will be up a little bit because we want to take revaluation specific classes for that. And the other line of significant discussion is the reassessment line for $70,000, and that's looking for some supplementation if we don't find an appraiser type person. We do need to have some additional support at the office level. At this time of year, it's kind of hard to do all the things that come up, so we need that additional person to help supplement those projects as they go forward. So globally, we're trying to put together a 3-year plan, but first things first is we need the resources before we can put the plan into place. So we're having some very active conversations on the revaluation line, and I'm asking to have those resources of personnel in place so that we can put together the best plan to keep the cost of that revaluation down. Other than that, it's pretty flat. Can I answer any questions for you?
I don't have any because I am well aware of the strategy, and it's multi-tentacled, and over the next few weeks or months we'll see what comes out, huh?
Right.
I think it's also only fair that for those who are watching at home, very often our department heads present this, and there are increases, and we sit and we say we don't have any questions, but this is not the first time we've seen it, so we have discussed these things previously.
Right, so a better question is, do you have any questions since the last time we discussed
There we
this?
go.
And you know, it's funny to that point, Patty, and I should not assume this, I figure this is like a running TV show that everybody who watched a couple weeks ago when Donna gave a very detailed rendition of revaluation, what that all meant. It's very possible people watching tonight did not see that.
Very possibly, because some folks watching tonight are watching strictly to see the budget presentation,
Right.
where they may not have seen previous meetings.
Yeah, so, but that's where I think a lot of our questions, probably why the board doesn't have a lot of questions, is because, Don, I think you presented, and there was a lot of Q&A at that meeting, probably for a good 30 minutes.
Well, and due to COVID, they've been archived, so if anybody is interested in seeing that, I'm sure it's on the website, and they could go back a few weeks to look it up. I don't have the date off the top of my head, but it was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Good point.
Was at a workshop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they could go catch that information.
Yes.
Right?
Thanks, Don.
Okay. Do I get the prize for the fastest budget presentation?
I think you're
Maybe
winning.
for tonight. I think
For
Karen
tonight.
won last time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna.
You're up. Oh, Steve Peace.
This year, as you know, it's been quite the struggle in the IT department with all the COVID stuff going on. But I think we've come up with a reasonable sound plan for next year's budget based upon all the COVID-19 stuff we've been having to deal with. Because of the COVID-19 stuff, it's kind of brought to the forefront some of our weaknesses in the IT department that we're trying to currently correct. With that being said, we come up with what I feel is a good plan for the town for 2021 and 2021 budget. You can see here that the 2% for John and me, which I gratefully thank you for. Our capital purchases is up $6,000. The big thing for the capital purchases next year is the unexpected end of life for our radios for all of our wide area network connections. So those need to be upgraded because they're coming to end of life, and we kind of need those to make sure that all of our buildings and facilities stay connected together for network and internet access. I mean, the largest portion is for public safety, just so that like somebody at Parks and Rec, their phones still work, somebody at the sewer plant, their phones still work. We want to be able to keep those connections up and running, so that wide area network is on top of our regular network for the redundancy factor, and we've had lots of instances of weather-related things where connections fall down, but the facilities still stay up for network, internet, telephone. So that's like $60,000 for those radios. So that's the biggest portion of the capital purchases. Director training and seminars, that's up a little bit just because we found some training sites that are subscription-based that we were able to get free subscriptions for a few months during COVID-19, during the beginning of the pandemic, and they're really good sites. And the older I get, the more I start to realize that my knowledge base is starting to become dated. Starting to get older, so trying to keep up with John Camille is a lot harder than it used to be. Office supplies is the same, cell phones is the same, internet connections is $6,000. That's a new budget line for 2021. You guys graciously approved a second internet connection for redundancy at that point. That's our Time Warner connection. So we have to budget for that for next year to continue that bill. Computer system technical support is up. That always goes up. Costs from the companies go up as our network grows. We end up having to get support for more and more equipment and ports and all that good stuff. So they go up a little bit. Expenses are the same. You'll see the website design and maintenance is down. That's largely due to we're migrating away from Google and G Suites to Office 365. With the new Office 365 and Office products, it now includes all the same functionality as G Suite. So we're migrating away from that. And actually, the projected cost for that, actually it's right there, is about $29,000 for next year. So that was a big savings for us by trying to get that migration. And actually, John Camille is diligently working on doing that, and we're testing the migration path actually today. Cell tower rent's pretty much the same. If you notice the network technician line, you see that that's doubled from $30,000 to $61,000. Half of John's salary was over in the B fund. We've now moved him all over to the A fund where he belongs. So that's why it shows that large increase there. The amount of taxes raised for my budget, you see it is an increase, but if you subtract the $30,000 and the $6,000, I'm showing an actual decrease over this year's budget. So actually just subtracting John's salary out of it, I'm showing overall town savings of about $2,800. So because hopefully the B fund will still show that $30,000 savings. So that's about it. Any questions?
About $14,000.
Oh, debt service, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a $14,000 bill for next year, and I believe one more year after that for a storage array that we purchased. That was when our old storage arrays reached end of life. There was no more support available, and we had to upgrade those. And the actual bill for that annual ended up working out to be the same as what we used to pay for support. So at that point in time, it was a great deal to be able to get that storage device for what we were paying for support. But we did borrow the money to do that. So there is a, what, 14.5, right?
Yeah, about 14,000, 14.5
Yeah.
a year. It's actually shown in our debt service section, so it's
Yeah.
not on the screen right now.
Yeah. So there's
But
that.
it was an overall savings.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was in there in 2020 as well, so.
Yeah.
consistent year to year.
Yeah, I believe it's 2021 and 2022, I think, is the last one. It's 5 years.
A couple more years to go, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no questions.
Storage expands every year.
Yeah.
Every day.
Every
minute.
day.
Yes.
Every minute.
See, when I first started working here, we had one server with, I think, a 300 meg drive. We now have like 45 servers, and we have like 27 terabytes. So, I mean, that's only, yes, I'll date myself, that's been 18 years, so it's grown exponentially.
Thanks, Steve. I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure I understand on the website design and maintenance. I understand the savings because we're moving away from the Gmail suite and going to Outlook.
Yes.
But there's also about $8,000 or $9,000.
Oh, yeah.
that is-
There's also the support contract for our website is also in there, and that has been moved over to cable access because Karen
Right.
Buck has been doing an outstanding job of maintaining our website and taking care of that, and it's mostly for the support, and she's the one that primarily uses the support the most, so she graciously took that portion and moved it over to her budget as well,
Right.
because it kind of fit better there since, I mean, really all I was doing was paying the bill. She's the one that does all the work.
And she went over that last
Yep.
Thursday when she
Yep.
presented. But where is the cost of Outlook and the
That is under,
Microsoft suite?
that is under the capital purchases.
It is, okay.
Yep, that I could tell you, because it's kind of in a gray area where it kind of lands. It's a service, but it's a
Yeah,
physical, tangible thing.
yep,
So we still keep it in the capital purchase line. And the total cost for Office 365, plus some of the things that we've been working on that COVID brought aware, is all lumped into that as well. That's about $35,000.
but that's also, don't we have that in 2020 too?
Yes.
So 2020 also, I should
Yeah,
say.
so actually, we do have that this year. It's a little bit less because of the Exchange Online piece and the VDI licenses that we've just purchased because of COVID. So
Right.
actually, this year, I think we're paying right around 24 for it. But
Right.
next year, we'll have the VDI pieces and the Exchange Online and email and all that stuff added into it.
So not to confuse it, but if we go up $10,000 in the Microsoft piece,
Mhm.
but we save $24,000,
Actually projected about 29 for next year.
29.
With the amount of
The net-
users
the
we
net
have
is-
and their price increases.
Yeah, and that's a $19,000 savings.
Correct.
And the platform for email is superior in Office 365 than Gmail.
Now, yes.
Yeah,
Back actually 11 years ago when we first went to G Suite, no, it wasn't. It would have
Right.
cost a ton of fortune to run Exchange and all of this stuff. I mean, people make careers out of just that one product.
sure.
Now it's all based in Microsoft's cloud services up in Azure, and
Yeah.
it's all web-based, even though it looks like an application. There's some really neat stuff you could do with it to make the users still feel comfortable with what they're doing, even
Sure.
though it makes my life a lot easier.
Well, there's a lot of decisions we make in 2009, 2010 that we changed by 2020.
Oh yeah, it's night and day.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Steve.
Anything else? I was trying to beat Donna too. Because of you, I didn't.
We wouldn't allow
Steve.
that, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Well, Art Patron, I just want you to know, it's not like Verizon or whatever the cell phone carryover minutes are. Just because we're ahead of schedule doesn't mean you get to grab that extra time from Donna and Steve.
Sweet.
Okay. But without further ado, from the Webster wastewater treatment plant, betterly known as the sewer plant, and collection system, Art Patron.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome, Art.
So what we're trying to do and continuing trying to do over the last 3 years is to, one, meet our goals and directives from the EPA and DEC, what they want us to do as a treatment facility and a collection system, as well as try to be a little more proactive rather than reactive on our repairs and purchases of pumps, and also create a redundancy. There's some systems within our treatment plant that are not redundant, that when they fail, it's not a great situation. So, we'll start with the collection system. really the first few lines are flat. Compensation employees, the staff is somewhat thin to get all of our work done. It's been a goal to continue building that staff. We also have retirements coming. We want to get some qualified people in there before the experienced people leave. These employees will help us again meet those goals of EPA and DEC and continue getting our work done as best we can. Going down, looks like we're flat on sewer rents. Fuels are flat. Maintenance at the lift stations, that did increase 15,000. Again, older lift stations need more repair. We just need to keep up with them. So pumps, pipes, valves, everything like that. Wet well cleaning, I increased that this year. We do use an outside vendor when our truck is not sufficient to help us pump deeper wet wells. We also use them for cleaning big day tanks, decant tanks, things like that at the facility. They can do a lot quicker, a lot more efficient, and their pumps are a little bit stronger than what our truck can do. Village charges, they're flat. We increase alarm system maintenance just slightly. Heavy equipment repair, we increased that by $1,000. Stuff is getting older. We're doing a little bit better maintenance on it, so we wanted to just bump that up here. And getting to 8130, which is inside. Pretty flat. Paul, do you want to talk about the chief plant operator?
We currently don't have a chief sewer plant operator. The position's been posted. We're searching for a replacement. So we've hired a consulting firm to fill in as the chief plant operator. So we've actually split this. This 60,000 is probably about 50% of what we would pay a chief sewer plant operator, and there's another 60,000 budgeted for the consultant. So we'll see how it shakes out.
Capital purchases, we had a bit of an increase. That really goes back to my first statement of redundancy and replacing old items. Just a few of the items that are in there are a polymer mixing chamber. We have one unit. It mixes the polymer before it feeds into our centrifuge and or belt press. When this unit goes down, we cannot process any sludge. We then have to call an outside vendor to come in with tankers to haul it out at $1,500 to $2,000 a load. We can do 2 to 3 loads a day. So again, building that redundancy so we don't have to rely on somebody else. We have a solids grinder we're going to rebuild for $11,000. Our centrifuge software upgrade for $57,000. The centrifuge was put online, it was purchased in 2005, put online in 2007. The software we have has not been supported for a number of years. It does have glitches. We can see the glitches. We sort of work through them. Thankfully, our rep is very good out of Virginia. He sort of walks us through it. But we also have to call in a logistics, a communications company to help work through that logic in the computer. So it needs to be done. I mean, it's well overdue. Another bigger item are the ferric tanks. We have 3 ferric tanks, 8,000 gallon capacity each. They have been inspected 2 years ago. They're cracking. They do not pass inspection anymore, so they're due to come out next year. And those are original to the facility. I did add in some SCADA lines, high-level water sensors. Let me step back. The SCADA is what controls the entire plant. It's a computer system. We have an opportunity to use more of its capacity, and we're going to do that now that we've created some upgrades. We're going to put alarms on it that currently they only alarm locally, which is in the building when we're not there. alarms. So they'll alarm out via phone call. We'll be putting dry well sensors in. If we get some water in the basement at a certain level, we'll be notified. And we'll be tying in some ferric pumps and chemical pumps that are not currently tied into it, that are down in a basement. They're checked manually and adjusted manually once or twice a day. If they're up on a SCADA, they can be done right there. So, I also did include a new zero-turn mower. Our mower right now is a 1999 mower. It takes us close to 2 days to mow. With a new mower, we can do it in 1 day. So,
As far as the mower goes, I'm pretty sure we're gonna add your area to the overall acreage, so,
We're going to try to do that.
yeah,
We're gonna,
right.
yeah.
So that could be a potential saving. I can't see the mower up there right now.
no. So,
No.
it's 14,
No, you
14
14,500.
grand, right? Okay,
Yep.
The, yeah, that's going out to bid in the fall,
right,
so,
Yeah.
for next season.
okay.
One other item is replacing and/or repairing the replaceable panels on the removable roof over the ferric tanks. They are very old, although I'm working with a roofing contractor to see if they can just be restored. So we should come underneath that 20,000. So, any questions on that? Moving ahead, next few items are pretty well flat all the way through. We keep a bioxide line in there in case there's odor smells at our Fawnwood pump station. Thankfully, there has not been. Scrolling. Again, vehicle maintenance increased from 3,500 to 6,000. Again, older vehicles, and also we're doing a little more maintenance to them to keep them going. So,
Should we make a comment on sledge hauling since it's such a huge trend?
absolutely. So sledge hauling is flat. We have one more year in our contract. We'll have to look at options for that. So,
There aren't
So
many
far it's a-
options.
And there aren't many options on that.
Yeah.
there are not many options. We bid it 3 times. We only had one bidder, although we may have found another. So
That's a good thing.
Thanks to Camden Group. So. What's our next line on there? Buildings and grounds. Let me get to that. Oh,
Yeah. Pump repairs,
yeah, I'm gonna need glasses.
it's up 20.
Yeah, so, what this is, buildings and grounds, and in this is, 40390? 40392.
40392.
Well, let's go to 40390, lab supplies, please.
Okay.
Lab supplies, again, there's numerous disposables that are used throughout the year. We have a fully certified lab. We're looking to replace our water still. It's a 1990 still. So we're looking to replace that for $11,000. We've been piecing that back together, soldering it, and trying to make and create O-rings. We're also looking to replace the 21-year-old spectrophotometer for $7,000. Used quite a bit in the lab. It's with their basically high-powered microscope. So we need to update those items. Buildings and grounds. Buildings and grounds. Some of the big items here was relocate the security fence with the shooting range being relocated. We're going to take advantage of that and move our fence back a little bit to gain a little more property. We'll get some more storage and room for trucks to turn, and also repair our automatic security gate that has been broken for years.
So moving the fence back is gonna give you more room for,
Parking,
Parking.
trucks, yeah, tankers to come through. Yeah,
how they get through now,
it's a tight turn.
is it?
Yeah.
Which one, down by your main
No,
building?
by our septic receiving,
Pardon?
by our septic receiving facility.
Okay.
Yeah, it's up and back. It's just jogged in. We're just gonna take it out, make it straight. We'll line it right up with the shooting range.
Okay.
So it should help us now, but as I'm looking down the road, if we reconfigure that septic receiving,
All right.
do it now and that'll help us then.
Makes sense.
Pump repairs. Pump repairs, again, we have numerous items that are beyond their useful life. Keeping them going so we can create a good proactive plan on replacing them. Office supplies and flat. Cleaning service and supplies. The sewer department will be getting a cleaning service for the first time. It's already started with COVID. We'll keep that going just 2 days a week. And that'll be included in the bid.
It's included.
Absolutely. So, everything else in that looks to be flat, Paul?
Yeah, pretty comparable.
Okay. I did increase the industrial pretreatment. That is the sampling and so forth that we do with the industrial users within the town. We'll be increasing those visits and those samples to meet guidelines.
Talk about revenues.
Yeah, I think you can talk about a little bit more, but I can talk about our commercial sewer use. Q2 of this year was down 25,000. I can only imagine that Q3, Q4 will be the same, and then rolling into 2021. Septic waste and leachate, we have not had that most of this year due to the plant upset. We can't take it, and it tends to overload the plant very quickly. Even though we have new clarifiers coming in, it'll still be a touch-and-go process to take them in. So we're hoping we get the plant balanced out, and all of the, when the work is all done, and we begin to take a little bit in. That is our optimistic goal.
Used to be a much larger revenue.
Absolutely,
Yeah, hopefully we'll get back there.
absolutely. And that's, I'm hoping some of the things we're doing this summer, not on the construction side, more of a maintenance side, things like that, looking at our aeration, some of the other functions within the plant will get us there.
Talk about the capital side.
Talk about the capital side. Like I'm with 8110. All right. Really, there isn't a ton changing here. Again, building improvements, we put a roof on last year, we put a roof on the last 2 years, so we're in good shape there. Consultants, we bumped up just a little bit. We do have some stuff possibly coming down the pike, and those also cover if anybody has a sewer project that they want to delve into, this is where it starts. So, capital improvement pump stations, that really, again, goes to, we've been diligent on replacing things when they need to be, trying to be a little proactive, but there still is a lot of older stuff. We're trying to weed out the worst, and then just doing what we need to do. So you saw the repairs go up a little bit, but those are the stations that are worth it, and those items that are worth it repairing, not replacing. So we're looking at, taking a little harder look at what needs to be repaired, what needs to be replaced. Collections, we bumped that up. The infrastructure of the collection system is, as we know, over the last couple of years, is failing. We want to stay on top of manhole repairs, maybe do a little more slip lining, things like that. Debt service.
And the rest of this section is debt service. Over the years, the sewer treatment plant has incurred serial bond debt. Some of it will be paid off beginning in 2021, so you see a drop here of about $150,000 both principal and interest. The band principal and interest you see down here, that's for the project that's currently underway to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant, installing the 3 new clarifiers. We began making payments on that in 2020. So we think that'll be rolled into a serial bond starting in 2021, and the first payment will be due on the serial bond in 2022. So we did benefit this year by a drop in the debt service.
Keep going.
That's
Anything below?
that's the most of other than capital revenue.
Any questions? Questions? Comments?
Really? Oh, that Art? I have a question for you on the, where is the revenue side here? That's 20. There it is, okay. The Xerox rentals,
Which line item are you on?
I don't know if I'm doing, there's other,
Capital fund revenue.
actually, I wanna go revenue on the other.
I think he's on,
Sewer
Xerox
operation and maintenance revenue.
2132.
So I'm on page 19, Xerox sewer rentals.
Mm-hmm.
This year was 66,937. Next year you have it anticipated at 83,000. I guess, what would be the effect on our budgets and revenues if we had all of Xerox's EDUs?
Tremendous. It'd definitely be a help, that's for sure. It wouldn't, and on the other side of that, it's traditionally weak waste, so we're not spending a lot of energy, electricity, chemicals treating it either.
Okay.
You don't know roughly how many EDUs that would be?
I think it's 6,000.
Four to six.
I'm sorry, what was it?
How many
Number of EDUs, I think it's.
Well, I don't know how many we have, but I know that the village has 4,000. I don't know how many we have.
We got O&M of 566.
Are you doing math right now, Art?
Mm-hmm.
Just make a
No.
note.
Okay.
And that's all based on water usage.
It is all
Just,
based on water
for
usage, yes.
anyone.
What'd you say?
Each unit's based on the number of gallons of water usage
Right.
for the commercial buildings, just to explain it to the
And we do actually
viewing
take,
public.
from them, we take processed waste, and we also take flow from their old landfill. That's what we currently take.
Did you say we have 500 some from them?
Correct. We got it at 566 units.
Yes.
So an additional 4,000.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. That's the only question I have.
That would help
would.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Art.
Art.
Thanks, Art.
I think this is the only presentation where we get a tandem. The Honorable Judge Coratori and the Honorable Judge DeSalvo. Can't wait to see how you guys tag team this one.
I heard of my co-judge. He's the budget guru.
You want to take it from the top, or you want to hit the,
It's your show,
Highlights.
Dave.
well, the reality, let's start in a general term of the personnel, because what we've budgeted for involves going back to what we have had in the past. In the past, we've had 3 full-timers, 2 part-timers in the court clerk department. What we have right now are 3 part-timers and 2 full-timers, and the goal is when one of the part-timers retires fully, we will go back to 3 full-time, 2 part-time. Now, when I say go back to, what we did was when 2 of our full-time, we had 3 full-time clerks who all retired. Sandy retired and retired, period. But Kim and Marilyn went from being full-timers to part-time. And frankly, I've had Marilyn with me for the last 30 years or so out of my 32. She was in the police department before that.
He's with me 20 years since I started.
So, we didn't want to lose all of the knowledge that we
50
had.
years of institutional knowledge.
Taking on 2 new people, both of whom are full-timers. So Tom has Patty Ann as his exempt clerk. I have Jessica as my union clerk, or whatever you call that public, what's that, labor, where do we get the? Civil service. She's my civil service person. What do I know? I love human resources. I'm glad it's somebody else. Thank you very much. But, so Jessica is my civil service clerk. I'm entitled to an exempt clerk, but until we get a full-timer, I mean, that would be a full-time goal and position. So, the point being here is that the clerical assistants, we actually put in for next year to have that full-timer, believing that one of our part-timers would be leaving in the next 9 to 12 months kind of idea. But it didn't add a full-time position because we're deducting out a part-time position. So if that, that's the scoop. Right, Paul?
That's right.
All right.
Those are the
Nice
facts.
to be once right in my life. So other than that, pretty much everything is the same as it was before. Overtime is something which we haven't used as much as we have in the past, and I think that was a particular position. I'm trying to remember what the overtime idea was, but clearly we didn't think we needed $1,000 for overtime. We deducted that to $700. The capital purchase, you're actually going to get me back here at 7:30 tonight.
Yes.
To talk about the JCAP grant. So the capital purchase is, in case we do not get this from the JCAP grant, in case we don't get the state money, we have a need. That would be a microphone for the court for the one that broke. Conference expenses, did you get we're not going to Syracuse this year? For the, they can this year's annual magistrates convention, which this year would have been in Syracuse. So frankly, we're not going to use everything. That conference is actually one where the town gets reimbursed for some of our costs for being there because it's a mandatory piece of training for judges. So, I would leave the $3,500. You're getting a bit of a break this year. There's going to be some money left over this year, but we would leave it at that. You've got the supplies, we're always in that $5,000 to $6,000 tend to be range. You know, look, with COVID, we're sending out a lot more letters, we're using more envelopes. I don't know what the town clerk is doing in terms of the postage, because we're giving her an awful lot of stuff to run through the postage machine. But I think that still is a pretty good number. And then we have the copier, computer, software, and maintenance. It used to be a lot more until New York State took over the courtroom SEI program, and it's one of those things, don't tell anybody from the state, but we get it for free now because the state actually pays for it, which of course just means we send our tax monies there instead of here. But anyway, that's kind of the whole, what are we looking at spending, and then the 190,000. You can slice and dice our numbers for this year, but what do our numbers for this year mean? We weren't in business for 3 months or so. I mean, it's a realistic measure. They didn't make a report. We took in absolutely no money in April, for example. We took in some money in March. We're back taking in money, but it's not what we used to. But 190 is probably a reasonable guesstimate, but it's always a guesstimate. It actually struck me as amazing to take a look at. I always try and take a look at the first 6 months of where we are caseload-wise. And for this year, caseload is 2,625 cases as of June 24. Last year, we were at 2,606 cases. So somewhere we picked up 19 cases, even though we weren't in business. But that's, realistically, it's what the police were doing. And so now we're busy chewing on them. Right now, we're scheduling into about November. I don't know what you're doing. You had court yesterday.
I had 200 cases on yesterday.
What? 200?
200 cases.
He's still got most of his mind left. It's
That's
good.
right. Started at 1, last case went up at 6:20, so
Wow.
it's not unusual. That's pretty normal calendar. Actually, we've had more than that. We've had 230. It's not unusual.
I try and break mine up a little more. That's Tom's standard, but then I do a Tuesday and a Wednesday and kind of try and split them up between the two.
That's everything from felony cases to your brake lights out.
Okay. That's
So
still
we
a lot.
We had a little over 200 cases yesterday.
What percentage would you say were traffic violations?
I would say probably 60% traffic.
I would have guessed 50. I mean, it was
It's hard to guess.
Yeah.
Depends what the-
Yeah, I was gonna email you the question, but I forgot.
You know, I would say that, you know, the criminal cases take up 75% of our time.
Right.
Traffic about 25% of our time. Paperwork is just reversed. The paperwork for traffic is about 75%.
No kidding.
The criminal work is about 25%. Yeah, the traffic,
There's a lot to it.
Lot to it.
And right now with COVID, you know, we've got to, okay, are we going to have 2 clerks sitting in court with us? And no, we've gone
although
to,
yesterday there was a real problem, you do the order of protection, you know, you can only do so many balls up in the air at the same time, we had a call for help and Kim would come up. You know, on every criminal case, don't forget the clerks are pulling the person's traffic record too. So it's not just the tickets, it's the person's.
the criminal record.
And the traffic record too, on the traffic cases.
On a vehicle and traffic, they're pulling, yeah.
So there's a tremendous amount of paperwork, and then, you know, they have to report all that stuff to New York State too, so. But 200 cases on a Wednesday.
That's
not unusual.
amazing.
In how many hours, Tom?
What's that?
How many hours of court?
Well, I started at 1, my last case went off at 6:20.
That's like 40 cases an hour. How do you, I gotta go and see it. How do you do that? You got a conveyor
He's
belt?
faster than I am, so you
I don't
know.
think you could be a judge.
How?
No way.
Oh, now you got it.
Some cases take a long time.
The preamble would take an hour and a half.
Some cases don't, you know, they have a registration violation, they are charged with driving around the registration, they show up and they're flashing their brand new registration that they just got. You know, that's disposed of pretty quickly, and a case is dismissed because they proof of registration. You know.
The district attorney at that point probably would withdraw the charge or something, and, okay, he's got proof, okay, send him away, and.
As opposed to a criminal case, when we're arguing motions, that can take
Right.
much, I would say pretty much all of the DWIs, you're talking about at least having the hearing and maybe also having the trial.
Right, the DWIs are so time consuming, we don't, at least in my court, I only do sentencings of DWIs on Friday morning because it's just too time consuming to keep a courtroom full of people while you're taking 20 minutes to sentence one person, you know, off paper. That's usually a Friday morning.
You got any jury trials scheduled? I think I got one later this month or
I have
later
no jury
next
trials
month.
scheduled at this point in time, no.
I think I've got one, but it's on to conference at first, but that's another piece to the puzzle.
Interesting.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
With the COVID, yesterday my clerks did a really, and the special police, by the way, I need to send the chief a thank you letter. The clerks and the police, first of all, the clerks did a great job separating, especially the traffic cases, sending out notices so that cases where like they were getting 15 cases at a time, they were different time, staggering the time, so they didn't all pour in at one time. So that way we were able to keep only 16 people, 16 defendants in the courtroom at any given one at a time, so that they really spread it out.
You were using the lobby here,
Yes.
the overflow.
Yes.
Did you have to go to the back room or?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No, but the special police did an excellent job in making sure there was only 16 people in those 16 chairs, and moving people in and out of there. And of course, the clerks had staggered the times for the defendants to appear. It also helped a great deal. We're trying to be COVID proper. Everybody had masks on.
How'd you do in the mass department? Did everybody, were all the defendants,
Everybody
everybody
had
good
masks.
about they had them when they came?
The special police wouldn't let them in,
We-
but they did, so.
We don't always get a chance to talk, so this is how we find out. The magistrates meeting hasn't happened since March when there are other big opportunities.
So this could be considered a conference, right?
Yeah, yesterday was my first general calendar since
Really?
St. Patrick's Day week.
Wow.
I want to apologize because somehow I missed that on the schedule, and we don't have that side area set up yet for you.
No, it's all set. We
Oh,
set we took all the chairs, the extra chairs from when we emptied it, we got them set in there. I mean, it's not pretty. Don't go in to take, PR photos or anything, because it's not, but it's got, the chairs are socially distanced.
Great.
And, and really, it's, we're using this first, but then we got the just in case. I mean,
I'm not sure, but I don't think the special police had to use the extra room
Yeah.
that I'm aware of anyway.
So, it's ready to roll if we need it.
And I think that's because they staggered
Staggered them,
people.
yeah. I'm a little concerned, I know you did, but I've got a Tuesday with vehicle and traffic and,
We still can't do landlord and tenant cases.
no, we can, but you really can't. You really can't, but you can.
So if anybody's complaining about, their tenants or their landlord, there's nothing they have in the foreseeable future.
Well, did you see they've got the new court they're talking about?
Yeah, the temporary.
Temporary only till the end of December thing, yeah?
What's that about?
For what?
For landlord tenant cases, it's a countywide thing, and it's very complicated. Both sides have to have lawyers, and there's all kinds of, the rules change from the state of New York by the hour,
Now, it's every 2 hours now. It used to be every hour, but
it's a
it's gotten
temporary
better.
thing to try to get the backlog of because the city court hasn't done any landlord tenant cases either, none of the town courts.
Just I was down there
So
today,
back up
it
to the
was
move.
empty as can be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm just enjoying this.
Well, it is entertaining, I gotta tell you. You guys
Well, it's
should
informative as well.
take this show on the road. I mean, that could increase the revenue. I gotta ask one question, and I wanna say, please, I wanna not see I don't wanna make your blood boil, but you did tell us at the department head meeting the other day that there might be a potential effect on the revenue for 2021 based on a bill that is sitting on Governor Cuomo's desk right now?
You wanna go over the exciting, we can't scoff law for non-payment,
There's a bill passed by both houses of the legislature on the governor's desk that will prohibit us, most instances, I guess in all instances, from from scoffing at anybody who doesn't pay their traffic ticket.
Not that we want the public to know.
So it's probably likely the governor will sign it, but all I know is it's on his desk. It's been percolating for the last couple of years. Last year was before the legislature as well, but it didn't go through the legislature. This year it passed both houses and sitting at the governor's desk. So that's a potential
Well,
major problem.
it's a potential 200,000 out of your budget. I mean, in the reality department. Of course, that several years back, the New York State Legislature passed and the governor signed the new budget. And when people looked at what the 450 pages were, one of it was towns and villages don't get any money from, $15 per ticket for ticket processing, no money that you're going to get, that you've been getting for town code violation, whatever the situation is. It was going to be, no, you don't get that 200,000.
It's quite a local backlash.
That was enough backlash to get them to actually pull that back out after it had been signed by both legislatures and the governor. So
we're waiting to see if the governor's going to sign the
Yeah.
bill, but that would certainly make it difficult to collect a lot of fines.
Do you anticipate a similar backlash on something like that?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I have no
well,
idea.
this one's known. I mean, this is known. The last one was, hey guys and gals, guess what was in the
It
budget?
came at the last minute.
That was more than the last minute. That was after the fact.
But this bill was very close to passing last year, but it never made it. So it's been floating around now for a while. But
I don't know that it's ever gotten to the governor's desk
no, it
before.
did not last year. No.
So for those people that don't know what scofflaw is, could you just explain that?
Well, if you don't pay your fine, and we're pretty sympathetic here. I can't speak for other courts, but we're pretty sympathetic here in Webster. We automatically give people 30 days. Now under the COVID rules, we're giving people 90 days to pay their fines. In most instances, if you call one of our clerks and say, you gave me 30 days to pay the fine, but I don't have it. I need some time. 99 times.
Don't
out of 100,
abuse it. Don't
right,
abuse it. But
the clerks will grant an extension. They're very sympathetic regarding that. But eventually, people do pay their fines. If they don't pay their fines, then the clerk stops their license, which means their license is suspended. You notify the state suspends their license. Then people have to pay a $70 fee to lift the suspension. The other thing we do when people don't pay their fines is we take a civil judgment against them. Many times I'll come in, there'll be a stack of them to judgments to sign, and we send them down to the DA's office, and subject to the DA's office that files them with the county clerk, and the judgment's been filed.
a little more on those on the criminal end of things when you've got a mandatory state surcharge kind of thing, or a fine and surcharge.
Right, the surcharge isn't paid or anything, and those judgments get filed with the county, and every once in a while, somebody does show up at the window and wants to pay off their judgment.
And get it lifted.
Get it lifted because, they're applying for a loan somewhere, and that comes up in their credit report.
Well, it attaches to any real property that they
Right.
might own. Technically, you can garnish their wages.
But the big hammer is being able to scoff someone's license for failure to pay a fine. It's not something that we do willy-nilly. The clerks really are really patient with people in terms of giving them extensions to pay, because we really don't want to see anybody lose their license if we don't have to. But many times people just don't pay. It goes 3, 4, 5 months.
What's the worst one you've had where you've had a defendant come in for driving with a suspended license? What's your number? 32 times?
Oh,
35
God.
times? What's the worst you've ever had?
I've had, it's hard to know, but
Somewhere in that
yeah, somewhere
ballpark.
in that ballpark. They have many suspensions all over the state of New York.
And a few out of state. You
And
can
a few
also,
out of state.
you can also be prevented from getting an out-of-state license, or we might get something here that says, no, they're out of state, they have a problem, so they can't get a license here because there's some agreement between the states, so.
But that's,
So if someone gets pulled over with a suspended license, they can't drive that car, the car gets towed and impounded.
But if you get stopped with a suspended license, it's a crime.
Well, I understand that, but
You charge with a misdemeanor, and if you have more than 10 suspensions, you're charged with a felony. aggravated operations first degree as a felony for driving with 10 or more suspensions.
And you automatically tow their car and impound it, correct?
I suppose, yeah. I mean,
We don't know, we don't really know the answer to that one. I would assume so, because I mean, realistically, your
Right.
police problem is, one guy or gal is driving, there's nobody else in the car that has a valid license. What are we gonna do with it? It is likely, evidence in a criminal case right now, because the guy or gal is driving with a suspended license.
quite frankly, officially, this is a political question. We're not taking a position one way or the other. Officially, we're just telling you what the proposed law is and what the
Right.
possible consequences are. But, that's a political question that we're not officially indicating what our position is on it.
It is what it is.
It's
What
what it
the law
is.
is,
For the
is the law is.
legislature and the governor to decide. We're sworn to uphold the law, whatever the law is. We will do what the law says we do.
But without that ability to scoff the license, you have really no enforcement in collecting the fee.
Other than filing
The
the
fine.
judgment against them.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I gotta tell you, we're down at Comar won the shortest so far. You guys are the most entertaining presentation, all right?
And informative.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's part of the entertainment aspect of it, but, thanks, Judge Dave.
Thanks a
Thanks,
lot.
Dave.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank
You
you
too.
both.
Well, we can do a couple things here. We are slotted to take a break.
Skip it if you want.
Yeah, I gotta get some water.
Want to take a break?
Yeah, 5 minutes is fine.
Because Terry's up next. But we can take a 5-minute break, and then if Terry's not here,
Hey, go on, order,
Job,
Denise.
Jimmy.
she is here. Okay. Okay. Take a 5-minute.
5-minute break?
Take a 5-minute break. I don't know if, we're back on, and Terry Bennett, our highway, sorry, Joe.
That's a lot.
Terry, you got a new job.
Wow.
And, but can you also do the library presentation
Oh,
for
do
us too,
both.
Terry?
I can.
Thank you.
All right. So the highlights. So the first is the salaries. I was able to bring that down a little bit. Many of our employees, as a result of COVID, are no longer able to do some of their job functions that they held before. So we've reduced some of their hours, namely programming, in-person programming. We aren't able to do that at this time. So I was able to reduce, or I reduced some hours for some of our part-timers. The capital line is just equipment, replacement computers, mice, keyboards, that kind of thing. I left that at the same level. I was able to bring down utilities a little bit in gas based on historical data. Phone is pretty much the same, copier lease is the same. Global charges, in case you're wondering what that is, that's the ability to use your debit card or your credit card at the library to pay off fines or fees. That came down a little bit based on some historical data. The rent is the big ticket item here. That's rent, common area charges, and taxes for schools. That came down a little bit, not because of anything that we could figure out, basically, is looking at historical. It was just a monthly charge that we just multiplied by 12. Building service contracts, this is contracts for HVAC, those kinds of contracts, waste management, that kind of thing. Rentals, repairs, that's when things break in the building. I left that at the same level. Automation is the Monroe County Library System fee. That's what we pay in to belong to the Monroe County Library System. That's the ability to have the shared catalog that all residents can access, as well as internet access. That's all built into that one line. Library materials, I was able to bring that up a little bit because I have a fairly healthy fund balance. Paul let me know. So we're gonna be able to move some of that money.
Yeah, we're gonna appropriate about 30,000. I think the 2020 line right here was
Right.
a little light compared to actual, so we're not really jumping this up 43,000. The the actual for 2020, as it has in the past, is gonna come in higher than the 57 that was budgeted.
So what are the additional materials that the 40,000 will be spent on?
We cut that line drastically last year because we had to, so it's just restoring what we had the year before.
Okay, what are the materials though?
Children's books,
Okay.
adult books,
All right.
DVDs,
Magazines,
magazines, subscriptions, yeah. COVID came at a good time for us because we had to shut down for 3 months, so it is gonna save us in some ways. Library databases, those are databases that we subscribe to, things like Ancestry.com and some other internal databases. Cleaning supplies for the building is the same. Office supplies, copier, paper, toner, that kind of stuff. Utilities, I already jumped the gun on that one, sorry. This is the last year, 2021, for the bond from way back in 2002 that we
It
renovated.
goes back, it was probably a 20-year bond, so sure.
Yeah, so this is the last year, 2021, for the bond, for the renovation. Those are kind of the highlights.
We have some revenue items.
Revenue, I basically
Okay.
cut in half. That historically has been coming down over the years, and it seemed the responsible thing to do was to project accurately what I think is gonna happen. I cut in half state aid. I don't even know that I'm gonna get the 6,000 from the state since the governor indicates that we're broke. I just cut it in half and hope for the best.
Terry, when you've cut book fines in half, are people just returning their materials on time and being better
I
borrowers?
think so. It's hard to predict what people are gonna do, but over the years, and Paul could corroborate this, that line has been going down, revenue is coming down, so.
Could that also be
Could be.
attributed to the fact that people are getting ebooks, if you
It
will?
could be ebooks, yeah,
And then,
that's a
and
good
then when that
point.
expires, you just don't have it anymore.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's no hold fees for
Mhm,
ebooks,
mhm.
it's all free, no overdue fines, they just goes away magically.
You don't recall what the book fines were in 2019 versus
19?
2020?
I can look that up. Might take me a minute.
That's a big decrease, like half.
It's been coming down.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering what 2019 was for comparison purposes.
2019 was 49,394.
So it's not far off from,
Well, 19 was 49,394, and you projected 48 in 2020, but then you cut it in half in 2021. That's a significant decrease, where you're only seeing about $1,000 difference from
Through the end of July, we collected 10,783 for
this year.
this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course,
We
through
had
the end of July, it's
shutdown,
also because
too.
people couldn't come
But
in.
you would
We
think
had a shutdown.
21 would be more
There's
than
online
the-
fines, you can pay online if
That's
you
why I'm-
wanted to.
I'm thinking,
36 might be close to
Right.
actual.
huh?
36,000 versus 24 might be closer to
Yeah,
reality.
right.
It's hard to know.
Yeah.
I was trying to
But
be
then you
careful.
might lose the state aid, so.
And I might lose the state aid.
I guess it's
We
just-
haven't heard, I'm just, I read the paper like you all do, worried that we're not gonna get that money.
You were just really conservative with your revenue
I was
budget.
very conservative. Are there questions for me?
I was just surprised at the large increase in your purchase of materials. It just jumped right out at me.
Well, that's because we had to cut it last year. We cut it substantially.
I understand that. You cut it last year and you were able to get by.
Well, we were shut down for 3 months, I don't know.
No, the actual has always been running higher than that. The budget number is incorrect.
So it was incorrectly
Yeah,
budgeted.
I can look it up.
Because I've gotten a chance to sit in some of the meetings with Terry and the library board, and John, you as the liaison, it was surprising to me to hear that materials, which, I always because I'm an old guy, think of as books, hardcover, whatever. Correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, it's about 17, 18 bucks to buy a hardcover book. And you can put it on the shelf and you can have it go out to, people who have a library card an infinite amount of times. Digital books run about $65.
For public libraries, or for libraries, I'm sorry.
And you can have that go out 24 times.
Correct.
And at the end of those 24 times,
You have to buy it again.
you gotta buy it again for $65. Think about that, Bill, as far as the challenges of a library, a public library in the future. One, it's gonna mean you're gonna need less space, because I think the trend will continue with more, demand for digital books, so you won't need the space to store on the shelf the paperback books. But it is interesting that the publishers, it's almost like a subsidized, it's like a racket.
It's a big problem.
Because they sell those digital books to like the Borders. Is Borders still around? Did I just
No, it's
They are still around, right? Okay. But they sell digital books
Barnes and Noble.
either directly to consumers or to, for like 15 bucks.
Correct.
But they sell them to libraries for $65.
Right.
So you can send them out 24 times, and then if it's a popular book, then you got to buy it again for $65.
Correct.
24 more times, it's $65.
It's a racket.
It is a racket. I mean, that's almost like they're saying, you know something? These are public libraries. They're subsidized or, pretty much funded by the government. We're going to, I don't know. It just,
They claim we're cutting
there's
into
something
their
wrong
business.
about that.
So you're at 57,000 you
Yeah,
budgeted
the
for this
materials.
year.
I have some information.
Okay, where are we?
Going back a couple of years, in 2018, we spent 116,000 in materials. 2019, we spent 110,000. 2020 may actually come in close to the 57, thanks to COVID. I think without COVID, we would have tracked closer to 100,000.
But if we've
Whoa, whoa,
budgeted
whoa, whoa.
57, how do you
Halfway through the
spend
year.
110?
Right. If you budget for 57,000, if you're saying that if we didn't have the shutdown, the library would have come in closer to 100,000. That's twice what you budgeted almost. I mean, how do you reconcile that?
Well,
Did
I
you
mean, I could be
lower
incorrect.
other budget areas?
Halfway through 2020, we're at about 16,000. But of course, that's with COVID.
Right.
Right.
So I'm not sure
But-
how it's going to track for the rest of the year.
We're
But I
trying to
think-
stay within budget.
So my question
And what you're
is that,
spending per month.
right, if X amount is budgeted, but continually, year after year, we track higher, how is it that we spend more than what's budgeted?
I think I
for?
might have the answer.
Oh, no.
Okay,
Well,
Right.
2020 was the only year where the budget was too low.
Well, we all know you can't go over the budget number because that's against the law.
Not without a transfer.
Right?
right.
The way I understand it, as I've been in these meetings with the library board in general, is that I wasn't here last year during the budget negotiations between the library and the town board. But you cut your materials from 100 and some odd thousand down to 60 or 57,000. And you almost had to make a decision that because you're really looking at the total number that goes from the general fund of 2.24 million. You either cut your payroll
Right.
and keep your materials at 100,000. You didn't want to cut your payroll. I'm paraphrasing. You tell me if I'm
That's
wrong on
correct.
this one. So you cut your materials, and then you go back to the 501c3s that you have a couple of friends in the library and this and that, and maybe that's where you are able to get money for the materials if you're shorted in the town budget.
The Friends have always been generous with the
Right.
money.
Now, that might give some history to this. I will say this, is that I can't thank Tony, the chair of the board, and Terry for what was a tough middle of March. I'm 2.5 months into this. You don't know me, I don't know you. John Cahill is sitting there, and we're like, look, we know we don't control how the library runs their business. It's a very unique situation. The board sends over the 2.2 million, the bottom line here. And it really is your decision on what to do with all these line items. And I say this because we were heading into COVID and we were like, this is what we're doing as a town with our employees, our part-timers, this and that. You didn't have to do that. You could do whatever you wanted. And I really want to thank you that at the end of the day, you really followed along with what the town did. And that is certainly going to pay you benefits in your 2020 actual to budget, would you not say, Paul?
Yeah.
Which is going to end up hopefully giving you a fund balance
Right.
that we've talked about that on some of these things for next year. And I, you know, to me, the bottom line here of, I guess it's, which would you say, is it the 2.247 million, which is the interfund transfer that's sent over from the general fund? That's the comparative number, really?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's up,
They're at
it's only up
$50,000.
24,000, basically.
Am I missing something here? They're
Yeah,
up $23,000 from last year. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Last year they got 2.224 million.
correct.
And this year, in this budget right now, it's 2.47. It's $23,000 more.
Yep.
Which is less than, is it less than 1%?
Percentage?
Yeah.
1.06%.
Yeah. You know, look, John and I are kind of waist deep now in a project with Terry and the board. We have and I won't get into it tonight, there's a global aspect that we're trying to attack together as a team, the library. And like any team effort as you move forward, sometimes it's like, wow, for Terry and Tony and the board, they must be like, this is great, Tom and John. Sometimes it's not so great, is it? I mean, I wouldn't want John researching my life. He's like a dog with a bone, and you've delved into some things there, and you know. But I think we're making traction, and I like the fact that I don't know what happened last year and what you showed up with as your initial ask and how it got negotiated down. But this right here, and certainly we're not adopting budgets tonight for the town, but it's consistent with what I've seen the last 4 months out of the library as John and I have been in there really trying to work with you, and Paul too. I mean, you're doing a lot of stuff on that too, so I appreciate that. And I just want to make sure I understand this. Are we, as a board, are we so much concerned about the detail and line items, or more concerned about the bottom line that is transferred over? Because I think based on the library law, the state education law, we don't really dictate to them what to do with these individual line items.
No, we don't. It's certainly the bottom line, but when it's, for any of us who've not seen the detail of this previously, and the different department liaisons have not seen the details, to see something that's nearly double is a little bit shocking.
Oh, without a doubt,
But
and that's where,
I
yep.
certainly appreciate that it was under budgeted last year. I think there could be some very rare instances where we actually thank COVID. And this could be one of them because it allowed you to come in and be okay with it this year. But as important as it is, as you feel it is to be realistic with the revenues, and you don't want to overestimate that, it certainly is important to be realistic with purchases as well, and I understand that.
Correct.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
You ready for prime time, Josh?
All right.
Well, Josh Artuso is the town of Webster's acting Department of Public Works Commissioner. I think we might have he's going to say over his door, indoctrination by fire. Have at it.
Okay, so we'll start out with the A fund for building maintenance. This is in reference to the town hall facility in the court building. And I'm just gonna hit the highlights, as most everything is largely flat compared to the current year. We did do a slight increase in the maintenance line item, roughly about $4,000. There's some issues that need to be addressed, some repairs that need to be made to the town hall facility. In terms of the town hall and court building cleaning service, Finance recently put together an RFP requesting proposals for cleaning services for all town facilities. So we're going to try and achieve hopefully a cost savings when it comes to that. Right-of-way maintenance, we've got budgeted $10,000. This is going to probably help supplement the ash tree removal effort that the town is currently undertaking. And then we do have roughly a $7,000 increase in the utilities for the electric. Now that's a number that it's historically been under budgeted, so we increased it to reflect actual expenditures. Are there any questions on that section?
Fire marshal?
Okay. Great, so fire marshal. The change here is we are proposing to increase the hours of our assistant fire marshal. He's been an employee here for the past 17 years. He's recently retired from the fire, one of the local fire companies, so he has an increased availability, and we recently took on the responsibility of having to inspect all of the Xerox facility buildings, also places of assembly, commercial properties. Obviously, they have grown in number over the past 10 years, and having the additional resources, the assistant fire marshal would allow us to keep on top of those annual and biannual inspections.
How many additional inspections are you talking about?
Well, excuse me. For instance, the Xerox campus that we're now responsible for inspecting, they previously had their own fire marshals.
Right.
So with the reduction of their footprint on their campus, they no longer have any. So we now have 75 additional buildings that we are responsible for conducting fire safety inspections on. Just some other numbers associated with this. In 2010, we had about 50 places of assembly, and they require yearly inspections. And then today in 2020, we have 98, so it's roughly doubled in the past 10 years. Similarly with multifamily dwellings, apartment buildings, senior living facilities, we had 25 of those back in 2010. This year we have 122 of those, and those are conducted every 2 years. So with the growth that Webster's seen and the additional responsibility of the Xerox campus, we feel that adding some extra hours to our part-time fire marshal would be allow us to keep on top of what we're required to do.
I'm asking this question out of ignorance, but because we're going to these places to do these inspections, and Xerox obviously doesn't have their own firemen, do we bill them for these inspections?
I do not believe so. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we do.
That's correct, I don't think we bill. We don't have a fee.
Why would we? Is it against the law to do that, or? I don't know.
When Xerox got rid of their fire department,
Yeah,
we had to take it over. We had no choice,
okay,
because it's in one of our districts.
okay.
So we have to provide that service at no charge.
Right.
We have to by law.
I believe so. That's why we never charged.
Well, it seems strange because we have other fire districts that are taxing entities. We pay fire taxes in West Webster for those people that live out there. And then, you know, on our side, the Northeast Joint Fire District, they tax. We're a taxing entity, but we don't have that on our fee schedule, is what you're saying. No.
I would imagine Xerox pays into the Northeast Joint Fire District tax, but it's our responsibility to inspect. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct about
Not
it
provide
being our
the fire
responsibility.
service, but to inspect.
We
I
provide
understand.
the inspection throughout the whole town,
Right. And
regardless of which district it is.
right. And as we do inspections in the sewage treatment plant, right? Different inspections, we have a fee for that, right?
But that's to the developer.
Okay.
Yeah, TV show.
I'd just be curious to know if any, if it's, that's a lot of additional work and money, right? And it's not like, and it's a private business. I'm just asking the question out of ignorance again.
And I definitely am asking this out of ignorance with the Xerox campus. Two things, does the village, is their tax for fire come from Northeast, or the village
Right.
has their own? Does.
And the village also
Village is
has their
covered by the
own,
town. Okay, well,
the village has their, no, they don't have a fire marshal, that's right.
well, then that answers
Right.
my question of why is
County
responsible
fire
for this
marshal.
when most of that campus is in the village? Well, there's the answer, because the village is covered by Northeast. Okay. Interesting.
Moving on.
I think it's-
Any other questions or comments on the fire marshal
I don't know.
budget?
Yeah, we should look into it.
I'm definitely gonna look into it.
I'm sure you
I
are.
guess not. Animal control?
Okay. Moving on to animal control. Not a lot has changed here. We currently have essentially a part-time, well, a half-time animal control officer that also is performing half code enforcement. We do have a part-time on-call animal control officer for the nights and weekends. We are gonna actually be bringing in a second on-call person, which will be budget neutral, cause it's already kind of come out of the line item for the part-time assistants. And the intent of that is just to spread out the on-calls amongst the 3 staff rather than just 2. But again, no financial implications to that. Let's see.
Do you track how many animal control calls are taken? I'm just asking, because
No,
you're doing
it's-
2 different jobs.
John, I'm laughing because, well, Josh, you might be able to tell him why I'm laughing.
Yes, this has come up before, and yes, the answer to your question is yes, we do have data. However, it's not in an easily manipulative format.
It's a spiral notebook.
Yes, I was
You
gonna
know
say,
what?
you better
It's
come with
going
a
to
notebook or
be,
something.
it's now
yeah.
moved into electronics.
Okay.
Yes, we,
Josh, you were trying to be, dance around that, and Bill just hit it with, yes, Bill, it is on paper, and that's a real tough thing to
Wow.
dissect data that's on
It'll
paper.
take a lot of time for them to go through it, so we've
But-
gone to electronic.
I do appreciate, Josh, your attempt to try to somehow describe that in a way that wasn't just like, hey, guess what, gang, we're keeping records of this on paper.
but we are in the process of
Yes.
of translating that data to an electronic format so we can actually quantify the number
Yeah.
of calls and the demand for that service.
Do you track inspections that he does also? Like on a daily or weekly basis? Okay, he had this many calls for inspections or for animal control.
Yes, up until July, those were in the same column in that same notebook that we were just talking about. But
He
we
didn't have a separate notebook for
Hey,
inspections?
hey, you know what, now wait a minute, I gotta tell you something, the good news is that the gentleman who handles the code enforcement and the animal control is younger compared to me and is ecstatic to have this now digitally, you know, he got into IPS. He's really happy.
Yes.
And, you know, not for nothing, I don't, not to be an apologist or a defender, but he got handed the job, and the guy he got the job from a year and a half ago used to keep records the way that Bill just described. And, you know, if it didn't get driven back then to move it over to digital, this young, digitally savvy guy, you know, wasn't going to have it done. Well, now we're driving it, aren't we? And he's happy.
Yes.
The frustrating part is that as we start trying to figure out, you know, well, is there too much work from these two things for one person? Well, we need data. And either, to Bill's point, we got to go back and retroactively input all of the last 6 months or year of animal calls, or once we start to get the data from him inputting it in 3 or 4 months, we can start to look at a sample of months and say, you know what? This does need to be looked at to split the position. We're just not in a position to do that right now.
Yeah, so we hope moving forward we'll be able to generate reports and have a better handle on the demand and number of calls for that service.
Thank you, Josh.
To the general part though? The B fund.
Okay. So the most substantial change in this section is the network technician, which was currently, I guess, previously funded 50% in DPW. That line item is transferring to the IT's budget. So that's what the reason behind that reduction. Again, as I mentioned, half of the cleaning services for town hall and the court building is also out of this B fund. Again, we've went out, issued an RFP, and we're trying to get a more competitive price. We've kept it the same year over year at this point. Let's see. We will continue utilizing an existing engineering contract to help us out with our GIS services, and that's primarily updating our layers, our data layers, and performing routine updates to our online GIS system, parcel information, ownership information, things of that nature that's critical for a lot of the functions that we do at the permit counter and elsewhere. We've eliminated the contingency because we have contingencies in other line items. So overall, it's relatively flat year over year. It may not look that way, but again, the main reason for that reduction is the transfer of that IT employee's salary into the IT budget. Are there any questions on that public works section?
No?
Okay.
I do have a question, I think, and it's probably more for Paul. The letter of credits that we're working on right now, where would the revenue from that is a portion to DPW go?
Yeah, well, if you see the inspections are right here. It's only budgeted at 13,000, I think it's gonna be a lot higher than that.
So it is at B, whatever, 210, or whatever.
01560 line?
Yeah.
Well, howdy do. Okay, that's
It's
all
gonna
I
be a
needed to
lot
know.
higher than that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? But we know, and I agree,
Be conservative.
we under budget revenues.
Right.
But boy, are we gonna do something on that, aren't we, Paul? And Josh.
We're working on it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, not hopefully.
to the building department. Again, relatively flat year over year. We've increased the overtime line item simply because we only have one building inspector at this point in time, and we've seen an uptick in applications, most recently over the past few months with people not going on vacation and deciding to do home improvements instead. We have quite a number of building permit applications, so we increased the overtime line item, assuming that trend will continue. And let's see, there really aren't any other major changes. We've increased the professional services line item from 0 to 500 in case we need additional assistance. And we do occasionally also have the village building inspector substitute for hours, during vacations and time off. So
Does that go on, does his time go, what line does that go on to, overtime?
I think it's included in the overtime. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Office supplies, relatively flat. Dues and conferences, we've increased that slightly. There's continuing education credits that our building and code enforcement officers need to attend to keep their licenses, so I believe that's what that speaks to. Yeah, so overall, there's just a slight increase over 2020 in this section. Does anyone have any specific questions on the building department?
I don't really have any questions, Josh, but more of I just really would like to just make a comment, a general comment with respect to the amount of hours that you have been putting in since the departure of our Commissioner of Public Works, and personally how impressed I am with the work that you've been doing. And I know there's a lot on your plate, a tremendous amount of work on your plate right now. A lot of heavy lifting's going on, and I know that Tom's been working with you, Karen's been working with you. Your entire staff has really come together, and I had an opportunity to sit in on a meeting with you and Tom the other day, and I just want to say thank you and let you know how impressed I am.
Well, thank you for that, and yeah, everyone's really rallied together, and I'm very grateful for everyone's help and support.
No, you're doing a great job steering the ship, so stay
Thank
with
you.
it.
Thanks. I guess, well, just one other section here. It's pretty standard, the zoning board of appeals and the planning board. Really no changes relating to any of that. And I believe that concludes DPW's portion.
Yeah, that's the most of it. This particular fund is almost entirely funded by sales tax. So we have budgeted sales tax conservatively, as you know, it's going to be down probably at least 20% for 2020. But I think we'll still be okay budget-wise. So we kept it flat for 2021. It still covers our cost. There's no money being raised from taxes in this fund.
Paul, where's the Conservation Board?
That's in general fund.
General, okay, thanks.
All right. Thanks,
Any
Josh.
other questions?
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, who's up next?
Well, last but not least, and
Save the best for last, right?
yeah,
And this guy talks fast.
I hate to tell you this, Joe, but since you got ripped off at 3 minutes, it's 6:13, and if we're ending at 6:30, you
So much for using the extra minutes that were gained earlier.
Huh?
Yep,
Huh?
they're gone.
Blame the judges.
Say what?
Blame it on the judges.
You mean Statler and Murgatroyd?
Comedy team.
So,
Tom and Jerry show.
Joe, are you the most senior, no, you know, as far as department head? No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, Karen's been a department head longer than you.
Oh, department head?
But as far as employed by the town, you gotta be right there.
I don't know who's
The judge.
long in the tooth, but I don't know.
David's been,
Oh,
David's been in 32 years. You're at what, 33?
no, just under 32.
Okay.
Yep. All right, we'll start up with the A fund. Most of the labor lines, I'm not gonna breeze over this, we'll go line by line, but most of the labor lines are just what the CBA was. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on the labor. Most of that's just what the collective bargaining agreement was negotiated. There's not a whole lot of increases in labor. So I'll go to office equipment, we kept that the same, and that's a lot, most of all these lines are based on history, so if there's fluctuations or slight deviations, it's based on, you know, over like a 3-year weighted average. Go to the capital improvements, actually down a little bit. Last year we'd done some extra work on what we call the CJ building, Cliff Jones building, and that's all complete, so now it's some of the other projects just holding together the 1969 building that we have. Capital expenses are flat, same. Waste management, we actually, based on history, we'll drop that a little bit. I know that we had negotiated last year a couple different prices with different ones, and actually waste management, it's still the same carrier provider, but they dropped their prices based on competition or what we,
It's a big drop.
So sometimes you gotta
Good job.
hold the feet to the fire. The security and monitoring system is pretty much the same. There was a slight increase, but it's minimal. Same thing with the gasoline pump maintenance. That's just the general maintenance on the pumps. It could be hoses, the computer system, stuff like that. The training, actually, Paul, I didn't put this one or have Ally put this in Munis yet, but the 40140, we're gonna drop that by the 600 at the school. We'll be doing that with COVID, and then there's nobody.
Yeah.
We're taking that out, so they'll drop that line to 1,600. Okay. So it'll be down 1,000 overall. Cleaners, obviously that's based on history. There was a slight increase this year proposed for 21 by our cleaners, but that's out to bid. So once the bids come in, we'll have a better number for that. So, general improvements, again, this is more based on history. This is more for maintaining the building itself, lights, electrical repairs, plumbing. We've had siding come off for the first time, building built in '69. The addition over the roof was done in the 70s, and we actually had siding come off this last wind a week ago, which it's metal siding, small concrete repair, stuff like that. Computer and training, that's up just a little bit. We've got new software programs. The new trucks, these new Macs, have got extremely extensive emissions on there, and it's extremely specific, so we had to get some new software so we can run our own diagnostics rather than running it over to Mac every time. So that's for the emission, those two programs are for emissions. And also I do have in there tablets for the foreman. The foreman, I think it's time to bring them up to speed. The tablets will have the GIS and all this, hopefully, if we move forward in the right direction, we'll have as-built and the inspections and everything tied, hyperlinked into these. So I put that in there as well. Cleaning supplies stayed the same. That's it's there. Answering services also stay the same. Natural gas held that, and again, that's based on history. We're running pretty true to course on that, along as well as the electricity. Water is the same, the other utility. You guys following along so far? Mm-hmm. Okay. On the A5182, which is street signs and signals, that's again stayed the same where we are. You'll notice on county striping, we held this the same. There are some variables on that. The county every year
every other year does center line, and then every other year does center line, edge line. It varies a little bit, but also it's based on the winter, fade. Sometimes you still have the edge lines touch up if it looks to be a safety issue, so that's, but we held that the same. The intersection lighting, that's stayed the same as well. Those are not signal lights, those are street lights. Those are like the mercury or sodium vapor lights that illuminate the intersections for safety. And there's we have a pile of them out there. I think you have a list somewhere, Paul, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Then we've got 8540, the townwide drainage, held that the same as well, no difference in that, no deviations. Stormwater coalition dues are staying the same, they're not moving at all. Anything else missed?
Highway townwide?
What's that?
To highway townwide?
And it's a C, is the C account?
Yes.
Yeah, yep,
We'll go to C.
go to C, go to the C.
Let's see. We got A, B, now we got C.
And again, the labor is pretty much the only increases from the unions, the CBAs. Everything else has stayed pretty much the same. We kept the small equipment line, it's pretty close to where we are. These are things that are getting worn or trying to modify the equipment that we have, replacements, jumping jacks, tampers, cut-off saws, stuff like that. It's replacing old. The lift gate is, we do have hopefully a foreman's pickup going, or actually our pickup that we pick up all the dead animals with and move some of the heavier equipment. The lift gate that's on that truck was actually mine from 15 years ago. And we moved it from truck to truck to truck, and it's getting whipped. So we're gonna send that to auction with the other truck, and then we'll buy a new one for, what we're gonna do is purchase a foreman's truck, and then we'll put a new lift gate on the truck, the foreman's truck that's going, won't go to auction, it'll go out to pasture, be our new, it's kind of a dispatch truck and one for picking up animals and moving equipment. So that's, any questions on 20059? None? All right. Onward, 20074, safety equipment, held that the same. You can see what that is, the inspections, the cones, vests, a lot of stuff, the PPE for the employees, kept that the same. The biggest one now is the 20082, the equipment. This is something that I brought to the board's attention a couple months ago, and that we had, Paul had, upon investigation, had found a way to regain some of our lost ground on equipment. And it would be using, I'll call it reserves. What do you?
Yeah, basically we're using funds that are currently in the Highway Parktown Fund.
Right.
Which will be transferred over to the Highway Townwide Fund. And the theory is that the equipment is owned by the Townwide Fund, but it's used extensively by the Parktown Fund. So basically, the Townwide, or the Parktown Fund will pay the lease amount to the Townwide Fund. So basically, you're gonna have revenue coming into the Townwide Fund, which thereby
Offset.
gives us more money to purchase equipment. So it creates a transfer expense in the Parktown Fund and revenue in the Townwide Fund.
So that's how the difference in the equipment, which we've discussed before, but so what we did was keep we had agreed around the 400,000 mark, so we kept our normal equipment line the same as we did the year before and the year before, and then put that 400 on there, and we have an entire list that we're going after as far as equipment, which is itemized here. Do you want me? I mean, you can see it on the board there. Oh, you don't have the breakdown. You want me to label what the purchases are? I have them right here.
Yeah,
I can read them off.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've got a 10-wheel dump truck is now at 265. This one came in at 251. And I'll tell you, the killer is the emissions and the current requirements, EPA requirements, are driving these trucks up ridiculous. So 10-wheeler is 265. Track skids here 9,100. Let's see, rubber tire excavator at 280. Ours is got about, I believe it's about 6,000 hours on it. And it's not so much it's not the mileage, it's the hours. It
Do you
starts
keep
getting
that
fatigued.
one, or do you take it to auction, or what do you do with it?
It'll go to auction.
Okay.
Yep. And actually, there's two different, I mean, usually we wait for the municipal auction in May, but we've been having good luck with the online auctions. And, you know, supply demand, for every seat,
Sure.
there's a butt to fill it. And the last couple of things we've sent to the online auction have actually been productive.
Yeah.
What's that?
We said that wasn't a swear word.
No, that's, you know, that's not my normal saying. I modified it. So, a box van, the old box van, that we have 3 of them. And one of them, we just had to replace the whole underside and the tranny. When they got underneath there to replace the tranny, the whole frame around everything is completely rotted. So it's time to replace that one. And then crew cab, and that's a plow truck. We're taking the 750s. We have one more 750, which is a mid-size truck, and we're upping it by one size. But the mid-size trucks, the problem is in the wintertime, we have to park them. When we have a heavy snow, we're dependent on these trucks. They overheat, and they only have fiberglass wings and plows, and the wings don't, and the wings and the plows don't plow. They're not heavy enough to stay on the road. So the truck overheats, and then we gotta park it. So we're phasing, we have one more 750 to go, and this will replace that 750. So that's pretty much that's the sum of the 20082 account. And that takes us up to the 809,100. Questions?
Nope.
Okay. Safety training has stayed the same. That's the hearing test, a lot of it, the defensive driving. We're due this year for defensive driving, of course, so that's in there. The 40140, tools and supplies, kept that, actually it's up just a little bit. It's office supplies and the various, it's got our directories, first aid kit, maintenance of first aid kits, and the small tools, hand tools. Background checks, the 40234, that's stayed the same. That's all on the pre-employment drug and alcohol testing, and the new employee background checks. Stayed the same. Repairs and maintenance, held that flat. That's gonna be a tough one. It's, but hopefully with some of the older equipment going down the road, be able to hold that status quo. Hazardous waste and oil separator miscellaneous testing, that's staying the same. And based on history, we're pretty much on the mark for what we normally use for that. Uniform rentals, licensed miscellaneous, steel toes, or the boots, let's see, licenses, gloves, jackets, coveralls, prescription safety glasses, and the t-shirts. So that's pretty much, it's only $400 difference from last year. Questions? All right. So the drug testing and the contingency, held that the same as last year. So all in all, the C fund is up 300,000, but that's all equipment overall. Leaf, that's at my. I don't know if you have the other ones in there. You have my pickup lease and that on there too, Paul, or no? I have it on mine, but I don't know if it's on
Yeah,
yours.
right here. There's the pickup lease.
So, yeah, that's it. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So, okay.
All right.
And that's the last that'll pay off my truck. Yeah, we did that instead of buying it outright. We leased it for, it's actually not a lease, it's more of a loan. They call it a lease, but, so my truck will be paid off this year. So, I figure that'll be my parting gift.
The,
I got 2 to look up. That was it.
the band principal you see here is to pay for equipment that we bought about 3 years ago.
Yep. That's the final.
We borrowed money to buy it.
Right.
So we're paying for that over a number of years.
Yep.
And there's all your revenue items, which are fairly consistent year to year.
So where is is it, when you take all these pieces of equipment to auctions, is that where you're showing sale of equipment on the
Yeah, that's on the
260?
last, that's on the, yeah. Paul had it in here, unfortunately, I do all my revenue I had it on a separate page, not there. I have it all broken up, but yeah, that's the equipment auction. We did very well this year.
So well, this says 20,000 for all that equipment.
Well, in 2020, we budgeted 40,000. I think he got 57,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, as far as like I don't have the rubber tire excavator in there yet. I've been waiting
Okay.
for RTI with COVID. I've been having a tough time getting him out to look at the equipment.
Right.
So that's not in, but that's, I'll modify once I get him in there. And the other truck, we're not sure what truck's going down the road yet.
Okay.
One of the oldest trucks, fortunately, is one of the best trucks we have. It's one of the sharpest turning here. It's a six-wheel. It's been great, so we may take one truck that we've been having problems with, send that. So I'm waiting for Andrew to come from RTI to give me the price on that, so that'll be adjusted once he gets here.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Okay, perfect.
But this year, we, like I said, we made out very well. They gave us a baseline and a range, so when I budget, I always put the lowest as baseline because you don't know what the economy is gonna do
Right.
and where it's gonna be. This year it came in on the high end, which is really good. We doubled. Good.
This might be more of a question for Paul on the revenue than, but when county jobs are done or jobs for other municipalities, there's, from what I understand, there's, the revenue to the town is labor and equipment rental.
Labor, materials, and equipment.
Okay, so in which one of these line items?
There's 75,000 right here, the 02416.
Yeah,
That's what we're.
does it incorporate all three of them?
conservatively Estimating to be county revenue for the equipment portion.
For the equipment portion,
The labor is over in the highway town line, or
I got you.
town foot.
that's over in the A,
Yeah, the D.
or is it in B?
You'll see that in a minute.
Yep.
Okay,
We'll get to
okay.
D.
You wanna
Oh,
jump to
D,
that?
okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, let's go to the D.
We'll jump to D.
I'm going to D.
Joe,
Now I forgot which page.
Road repairs.
Joe?
Bill's got a question.
Joe, have you gotten any confirmation on the chips for this year?
We're actually in good shape right now. They have held, they said, speculated they're holding 20% back. They've let the county know this. We're sitting on ours right now. Right now, they're holding 20% of our total chips.
Okay, but you did receive chip money.
Well, we haven't yet because we have to, we know what it's gonna be, but you have to buy it, spend it, get the receipts back, the checks, and then send it off. It's a big different process in the last 3 years, so we've been committed to, but we
Okay.
haven't submitted to. Yeah,
There were just two recent purchases.
correct,
which will be
right, the
funded by
camera
CARES.
truck is one of them,
Yeah.
is one of the purchases.
The camera system and the camera truck is gonna go in. It was about 107,000.
And then the reason for holding, and actually the total chips appropriated this year now, because we did get, they initially said no extreme winter recovery and no bridge, highway, or the extreme winter recovery, and then there's another bridge portion of it. So we had initially budgeted 185, but actually the chips, total allocation for the town is 238. But out of 238, 20% of that will probably be possibly withheld. We don't know yet.
All right.
So we're reserving right now. And then based on next year's, that they're not even sure what they're gonna do with chips. So I don't know what he's done in their budget right now.
Might disappear next year.
It's possible. And that the problem is that now I just found out today, this morning, that two of the jobs that we're gonna do are being held back. 5 Mile Line and Fair Road in Perrington are being held because of the 20%. So if they sit in the 20%, those jobs won't go through. We'll still be well ahead of where we were budgeted this year for county revenue. We only budgeted 50,000, no, because they were bundling under the federal thing, what they've been doing. But still, this morning now, they're getting a block together to throw back next year all under federal monies. So all the jobs that we had looked at, remember I said we can up that, and we agreed to like 200,000.
Yep.
We'll still be able to do that 200,000, but I was hopeful that we could get more than that. But now, if they put that under a federal block, that alienates us from participating in those jobs again, no different than we've had in the last 3 years.
Right.
So we're gonna be in the same boat. But I see a puzzled look.
No, I just said to Patty, it's fun times we're living in.
Yeah, so,
The only certainty is the uncertainty.
Yeah. Makes budgeting easy, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of fun.
It's good.
so, all right, we're up to the D fund, D 5110, which is general road repairs. We've got, again, the labor is up. Again, that's the CBA. Held the OT, hold it the same. Holiday sick, that's all predetermined. Fuel, based on our history, we're pretty much spot on for where that is at the 80. And general repairs, I did, based on history where we are, I did increase that. And again, that's in part, we had all the roads in town, all the town roads on an 8-year cycle. And based on where we are trying to achieve this 8-year cycle on maintenance, that you're patching, crack sealing, chip sealing, mowing, all your crossovers, catch basin repairs or replacements. You know, trying to maintain an 8-year cycle. And since I took over as superintendent, we've had to roll that from a 6-year to a 7-year to an 8-year, just based on pricing. I hate pushing that out further, because 9 years you start pushing longevity, or you're gonna start losing the roads, because you're pushing those chip sealing and crack sealing and stuff lasting 9 or 10 years. So you're almost at the end. So I increased that based on history by the 25 to hopefully staying within 8-year cycle. D5112 permanent improvements, that's the capital. Again, the labor line is predetermined. Kept the OT the same, kept the chips, road materials at the $1.85. Again, not knowing what that's going to do next year. I hope that doesn't go back to bite us, but I'm hoping I can make up the difference in county revenue to offset that chips deficiency if they do hold it. And I'm confident of that. And then the biggest one will be the 403-112. Initially, this year we had talked about, based on COVID and the tough time of getting hold of third-party providers like the gutters, the Heinz crew, millheads, pavers, stuff like that. We had talked earlier in the season about moving monies over from this year, not being able to pave and do the roads, total rehab based on the deficiency in getting that. So initially we had talked about raising it up from $250 to $450 and kind of encumbering $200,000 next year, so that when the season hits, we can go, we're doing all the infrastructure this year, next year we go right to doing the gutters and road right out of the gate. But this is where, I think, what did you took 2 or 240? I forget what you reduced it back.
Well, I really didn't encumber anything yet, or appropriate fund balance.
Right.
We appropriated $800,000 of fund balance, which I bumped up by about $400,000 from last year, which essentially pays for the amount that was going over to the townwide fund to pay for the equipment. So I haven't really appropriated anything additional to cover this particular line. That's something we have to talk about, because that's quite a bit of fund balance to use in 1 year, so
Right.
we'll have to kick that around.
What we didn't have to do then would be to do half of the road next year.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've done it in the past. If that's what it is, that's what it is. So, I mean, we've already taken, you know, no different than a new subdivision going in. Instead of doing the whole thing all at once, they phase it out, and we've, in the last probably 6-8 years, we've been having to phase, just because, I mean, in '08, when asphalt went from $26 to $55 a ton, there's no way that we could do an entire subdivision anymore, so we started phasing at that point. So, yeah, that's, I mean, we're at that point then. If we end up having to phase it, then we phase it, so be it. We have, like I said, I have all our roads out to 2028 for where we're supposed to be. We just push that down further.
Yeah.
Questions? D5140, again, the labor is pretty much status quo and held. Cleaning labor and the supplies all stayed the same. Brush and weeds. Again, the labor is up just a little bit. That's again the CBA based on where we are. And then the brush and weed, this, I know it's up a little bit. Well, it is. It's just up from based on, the labor is based up just on the union contract. The only thing we have as far as with the purchase of equipment, 20082, all we're doing is purchasing rakes. Last year with the ODB debacle we had with the brand new leaf machine, which we still have not gotten our money for, which I believe I had emailed you and Tom and Charlie on, because I think we need to pull in some big guns on that one. They still owe us $38,000, and so we want that money back. So, but we were fortunate enough to solicit, or actually my foreman went online and found 2 other municipalities that were selling their older ODB machines. They thought they were going to get into leaf seasons, did it for 1 season and said not a chance. So we were able to buy their equipment for a quarter of the price on a machine that had minimal hours, 1 season on it.
Wow.
So we've done that, and now that's now in our reserves. So it worked out well. But So that's the same. And then tree trimming and removal, that's gonna be a tough one. We increased it 10,000, but with the ash trees going away, they are. We gained as much as we can on the bid process for town lands and park districts. But the rate of these ash trees dying, that's gonna be a tough one to hold. Because if they become a liability, we'll drop what we can. We have a great tree crew. But when it gets to these 80 and 90 footers, we're not dropping those. Those gotta be hired out, so. It may be, honestly, at that point, even then, Paul, maybe we send back out to bid, and for the ones in the right of way, we maybe get a better price than off the county contract.
Makes sense.
So we'll have to approach it as we get to that season. Snow removal has pretty much stayed the same. Labor, again, the labor lines are predetermined. Fuel is pretty based on history. Cell phones and pagers stayed the same. And I did increase by 30,000 the salt and fuel, everything, all that is going up. Salt has gone up $4. Actually, I have right now about 1,700 ton in the barn, and I can up that. I'm looking at where we are right now in our snow and ice, what remains, because we have to have October, November, December. Last year, November, December proved to be quite snowy. So I may, on what we have left, the price doesn't jump till September 1st, so I may put another 400 or 500 ton in our barn based on this year prices going up $4 a ton. So it behoove me to purchase it now at a lesser price. And then hopefully not have to order any until well into next year. Mother Nature's the only one that determines that.
We hope for an easier leaf season.
Much easier, because last year we were into the end of January before we picked all the leaves up.
Yeah, part of that fell into this current year.
How'd your fuel line go down?
History, it's just based on history,
Okay.
that's all. And actually surprising, fuel's come down.
Yeah.
I'm paying 99 cents a gallon right now.
Okay.
So that's from $2. So that's all, when we do that, that's all based on history. Remember, initially Kathy and I, 3 or 4 years ago, had extracted that out of line because it was tucked in and blended into another line, and we had no idea on history where we were. So we pulled it out, kind of threw spaghetti in a wall, and then once we started getting a little more better feel for it, now at least now we have a 3-year weighted average. So we can
Thank
look
you.
at that. And again, it's based on economy and fuel price. So, let's see, D, the service to other governments. Again, this is where, as far as the service district labor, county roads labor, I think, Paul, this is where we have it broken out from doing for other services, correct?
Yeah, this is the expense side of the county work.
Now, the only one, I think it's 10140 that we said we can increase. I believe that's the one, the county labor,
The county labor.
county roads labor.
The revenue,
Yep.
which is right
And
here.
I would feel comfortable, but you said pushing that up to 200?
Yeah, we did 125 here, we did 75 in the
Okay, so you
townwide one.
split it, okay.
So. If you think that split's wrong, let me know.
No, probably pretty close.
Probably
I'd say it's
about
pretty good.
Okay.
Uh,
So your fund benefits from sales tax. This particular fund gets, we're budgeting 3.1 million. So that's basically where we're getting the money here to transfer over to the townwide fund to finance some of the equipment purchases.
Right.
Because sales tax has been doing well over the past few years.
Yep.
And if that trend continues, then we can continue to fund equipment purchases.
all right. And I have, I don't know, did you have, on the initial one that I got, you didn't have M accounts on there? Do you have M on here?
Yes, them is.
Okay.
down there.
8540?
That's right. Can't forget drainage.
Nope, definitely not.
I don't have it in mind.
There it is.
Yeah, I didn't have it on my copy either, but that's why I have a spreadsheet that we monitor.
I might have forgot to include it.
What's that?
I might have forgot to include it on the printout I gave you. But here it is.
So, and that's pretty much held everything, again, where we were. I didn't increase or raise anything. That's, again, the drainage is pretty much set. That's the drainage fees. So collected. Again, that's something that we're going to discuss. Mr. Flaherty?
Yep.
Or
Yes.
that will be something we will push down the road at some point?
Well, certainly it seems like the commercial side of it is almost irrefutable that we should go down the road. What do you say, there's about 15% of the residential,
Yeah.
that isn't it?
Yeah, but realistically, especially with paying the association dues that we do to the county for the coalition dues, everybody's receiving that benefit, and everybody lives in a watershed. That's what I've been trying to push for a while. I think that's, at some point, that's something that's lost revenue, but will help supplement us being out there and doing all the work we are in drainage.
What line item was that?
Page 24.
In the special drainage fund,
SDM, page 24.
we should see an increase in the TV storm sewer cameraing fees.
So,
Yep.
yeah, well, actually now, especially with the new camera, we'll be
Right.
able to do our own too. Right now, sewer was doing both of them for us.
Oh, I see.
So, because that's why they were collecting it, but
That
now
makes
once we
sense.
have our own camera, then we'll start doing that.
That's a good thing.
4 years ago. Because we have the old camera truck, and we were
I think they gave you.
babying that thing, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And we've been babying it, and now you can't get parts for it anymore. So what happens is, yeah. 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 I won't even comment on that one, but that was a sore subject, but nonetheless, I mean, we got up till, but now it can't turn. The pressure in the head is lost, so the focus, you can see about here, and that's about it. So that's the reason, and with with the new developments, with bond releases,
Oh, I get it.
with all the sinkholes that
Right.
we're having, we're constantly relying on the sewer department, and with their already being strapped, it's
Right.
like, this was one of the reasons we used the CHIPS money, because it was something that we'll use 365, short of a snowstorm.
Worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I think that's, and then, like I said, I have on the back page, I had the revenues from, sale of equipment, auction equipment, snow and ice.
Yeah.
And then the Monroe County roads, labor and stuff. You had already broken that out into C.
Yep.
And then we've got the D as well.
Thanks, Joe.
For most of it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
that?
Joe.
Alrighty. No other questions?
Thank you,
Nope.
Joe.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe.
I think that's a wrap.
That is a wrap for the second budget televised workshop. I take it we go off the air and come back in about 45 minutes. Is that
That's correct.
how it works?
That's how it works.
All right.